I was watching, I think I was watching Rampage and Wolfgang play I think I was watching Wolfgang's video like 2 weeks ago, and he was playing like a cash game with all those guys, and they were chilling, talking, like he was doing his content stuff, and they were playing like $20,000 hands.
Yeah.
I was like, what is going, like, how can you be friendly when there's that much money on the line?
Well, that's part of the game with poker. You always have to seem like you're okay with the money at the table, and even if you lose, like, you can't be a poor loser, because you don't want to ruin the vibes at the table.
That makes sense.
No, the biggest I bought in ever was $100K, which was absolutely psychotic behavior for sure.
Were you staked?
I was able to get a sponsor to cover 50%, but no, I covered the rest, and it's still quite a bit. And it was a game where there were half creators, so I was like, okay, Mr. Beast is playing, he's gonna go all in with any 2 cards. You know, Ludwig was playing.
It was a Ludwig event, right?
Yeah, exactly. But there were also some pros like Phil Hellmuth and Tom Dwan. And I remember at some point I was sitting at that table with like 750K, and I was like, I don't want to be fucking gambling with like a tiny apartment here. And because it had gone up so high, and I was like, oh, and like I was actually starting to get a little shaky. And like luckily for me, I ran like a god that game. But I remember that was a time when like my brain just broke. I was like, this is too much money to have in front of me flipping for cards.
It's bad etiquette in cash games to go up and then leave.
Well, as a winner, yeah, you can. So like obviously, I stayed until the end.
Oh man.
See, I'm not gonna fold because reputation is worth more than a mini apartment.
Did you have a good hand? That like stood out?
I had one call that was absolutely psychotic, and I love it because it pissed off Phil Hellmuth. So there had been a ton of straddles on the table. There were like 3 straddles in a row. So I think there was like $50,000 of dead money on the table. And then it goes to Phil Hellmuth, and he had around $50,000 also. Right. And he goes all in. And like, even though he's a nit, when there's that much dead money on the table, it really is an incentive to obviously bluff. And then it comes to me, and I have ace-9 offsuit, which is like not that good of a hand.
You called with ace-9 off?
I called with ace-9 off. Keating.
What did he have?
Ace-8 off.
Why did he go all in?
Because again, people were straddling, so his odds are really good, and he's using his image at the table as a nit, which for most people, like, honestly, nowadays I'm like, 50K for ace-9, get me out of here. But back then I was a psychopath and I was already up, and he's like, she calls me with fucking ace-9 off, so blah blah blah, and like he just gets upset, which is hilarious. And I ended up winning that pot because I hit a 9. Mr. Beast called with like jack something small off. Right. Because you also have to think about that. Like, Mr. Beast is calling any all in with any 2 cards. So like when you start thinking about the pot odds like that, it's a gamble, but it's a plus EV gamble. And that ended up being like a 250K pot or something crazy.
That's the one you won?
At the end of that cash game, I think I ended up like plus 450K, which was pretty sick.
So and when your sponsors is different than state because you don't have to give that back.
No, I had to do like a certain amount of deliverables, and like I convinced them, I was like, let's do it in time for this so that I'll put the badge on during this game, and then I'll also make it up in deliverables. Okay. So like in a way, like I was staking my salary because I'd need to do the deliverables even if I lost. Right. Yeah. So like, it did feel like I'm just like playing with my own 100K, like an absolute crazy
Which is good if you go up because then you get it all.
Yeah, and if not, I was like, well, if there's half creators there, like I'm probably around even. I thought the game was going to get a lot of views. I was really loving poker, and I was like, if I do even somewhat okay here, it's like going to help me get more into poker. So there's just pretty high ceiling to try and do this. And if I lose 100K, I guess time to fucking grind, baby.
Back to chess.
Yeah, or it's like, I'd saved enough that it would be fine, but it would hurt. It would hurt. It would have hurt, of course.
Did that open up opportunities?
It did, like
chess or
poker opportunities. I mean, then I started playing poker more. I started getting invited to tournaments. And then I won a turbo tournament in Bahamas. PokerStars had invited me there. And then I got invited to Monte Carlo to a cash game with all pros. Somehow I made money off that one too. So I was like, I was running so hot. I was like, this is crazy.
That is insane.
And then because I had been running so hot, I ended up getting a poker ambassador deal, which then let me play a ton of poker tournaments last year. And honestly, I had a really good experience with them, but you can't play online in the US with my old sponsor, GG. Which is why now I'm with Club WPT, because you can play from in person, which is just so helpful because like I travel so much that I can't just travel to Canada all the time to play.
Yeah. Oh, so it is legal in Canada to.
In Canada, yeah. Okay. So in Canada, you can play.
Wow, that's. I saw last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago. I can't remember that you cashed in your first main event.
Yeah, that was the same. Again, I was like, this is so sick. I don't know what's happening, but it was
Were you staked in that one, or was that all you?
In that one, I had gotten a sponsor in exchange for deliverables. Okay. But I got to keep what I made. But I only min cashed unfortunately. But it was still good.
But that's
like
still
it's so
insane.
exciting. Yeah.
How many people play? If you guys don't know,
Over 10,000.
10,000 people play the main event. It's a $10,000 buy-in, and it's the one you see on ESPN, or the one that you saw on ESPN back in the day.
The most known poker tournament, and it's the one with the most amount of participants.
Right.
Poker pros really love it because even though it's a $10,000 buy-in, so many people want to play it once that it's a lot easier than the level of difficulty for most 10Ks. I've heard pros say it's like a $500 buy-in, which I think is not giving us, tight fish enough credit.
Yeah.
But
especially nowadays, like people know how to play poker. Like
people are getting a lot better.
It's a lot different than it was, assuming 20 years ago.
Yeah.
When, the best of the best knew how to play and reads were a big thing and there was less people that literally like memorized exactly what the book says and, goes all in.